Hi, so in this video I'm going to show you how to create a Windows 10 virtual machine with VirtualBox. Okay, so there are a couple of prerequisites that you'll need before you can actually get your virtual machine running on VirtualBox. First of all, obviously you need to have VirtualBox installed on your machine. So you can see here I have Oracle VM VirtualBox installed already. If you don't have it installed, I'll leave a link in the description below just on how to get VirtualBox installed on a Windows 10 PC. Okay, so once you have VirtualBox installed, the next thing you're going to need is a Windows 10 ISO file. So to get the Windows 10 ISO file, you need to download it from the from the Microsoft website. Okay, so that URL, I'm just going to paste it in here. And again, I'll leave a link to this site in the description below. So when you get to the Microsoft website and the software downloads page, you'll see a couple of options here. So the second option is the option we're looking for here. So we want to create a Windows 10 installation file. So that's the option here, create Windows 10 installation media. Okay, so there's an option here with download now. So when you click on that download, it's actually going to download what's called the media creation tool. Okay, so once the media creation tool is downloaded, you can see it here. 1 second. You can see the tool here in my downloads folder. So once it's downloaded, you need to run that tool. Okay, so once the tool kicks off, it'll take a couple of minutes just to gather some details on your machine. Okay, so while it's doing that, I'm just going to pause the recording and come back when it's ready. Okay, so you can see now that the tool is ready. It's just asking you to look at some of these licensing terms and agree to those. So have a read through that. Scroll to the bottom and hit accept here. Okay, and again, it goes off and gets a few things ready once again. So that will take another few minutes. So I'll just pause the recording once more while we're waiting for that. Okay, now you can see we're ready to go here again. So it's asking us here, what do we want to do? Do we want to upgrade this PC? Which we don't want to do. We want to create installation media. So you can see here it's asking us, do we want to create an ISO file? Which we do want to do. So I'm just going to hit next here. Then it's asking me to select a language, architecture, and edition. So it's just pulling these defaults from my current system, which is a Windows 10 machine, 64-bit. So in your case, I assume it will pull the same details from your machine. But there's an option here. If you untick that, then you can see you have the option here to select different options. But in my case, I'm just going to select what it's recommending, which is what I need. So I'm going to leave that box ticked. I'm going to click next. Okay, and now it's asking me which media to use. I want an ISO file. Click next. Okay, so you can see here I've already created the Windows 10 ISO. So I'll just leave this as Windows for now. Click save, and then it tells me again it's going to gather a few things. So what it actually does here now is it's going to actually download and create the ISO file. So as I said, I've already done that. So I'm actually going to just cancel the process here. But you'll obviously need to let this run and wait for the ISO to be created. Okay, so as you have seen already, I have my Windows 10 ISO here in my downloads folder. Okay, so that's what I need then to attach to my VirtualBox VM. So I'm just going to minimize that for now. I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to start VirtualBox. Okay, so when VirtualBox starts up, so you're going to click here to, you're going to click New. And here it asks you then to input some details on the virtual machine you want to create. So I'm just going to name this Windows 10. It asks you where you want to store the VirtualBox configuration files for your virtual machine. I'm just going to leave the defaults on that. It's asking me to select an ISO image. Okay, so I'm going to look for the ISO that we just downloaded. Here it is. Okay, and you can see it's picking up that it's a Windows machine running Windows 10 64-bit. Okay, so I'm going to hit next here. Okay, and it's asking me here, do I want to do an unattended guest OS install setup, which in this case I'm going to say I do. So I'm going to leave the details here as they are, so leave the defaults as they are. Okay, I'm going to click next on this. Here it's asking me what hardware configuration do I want for my virtual machine. So I'm just going to bump this up a bit. So up to around 8 gigs of RAM, and I'm going to say just one CPU for now, so that should be enough for my requirements. You can come back and change these settings later if needed. So again, I'm just going to click next here. Okay, and then here it's asking me what size hard disk do I want for my virtual machine. So the default is 50 gigs. So that should be enough for my requirements. Again, for your setup, you might need something different here, but the default is good for me. I'm just going to click next here on this. Okay, and then it's asking me, or it's showing me a summary here of the configuration that I've just input. So that all looks fine to me, so I'm just going to click finish here. Okay, so you can see my machine is getting ready here. It tells me on the right it's powering VM up 0%, so that will take a few minutes. You can see here on the left, this is basically my virtual machine, and I can, once the machine is ready, I'll be able to configure settings if needed using the settings options here. Okay, you can see my machine is popped up here in the background. It's starting to boot up. You can see the setup is starting here. And because I selected an unattended installation, it should run through the setup process without much input from me. So you can see here it's copying some Windows files at the moment, and then it'll run through these additional steps here. So that will take some time. So I'm just going to pause the recording while it's running through that setup process. Okay, so now you can see the install process has complete. So it's telling me now that Windows needs to restart. So you can see the virtual machine is now rebooting. So it'll take a minute or two to come back up. Okay, so you can see my virtual machine is now booted up, and it's going to run through the Windows 10 unattended installation process, which is what I selected earlier. So in your case, if you did not select the unattended installation process, you'd probably have to go through the manual setup process here. But as you can see, this is telling me here now that this might take several minutes. So again, I'm just going to pause the recording and come back once the unattended installation process is complete. Okay, so the unattended installation process is just finished, and my machine has started up and I've been logged in automatically. So there are a couple of things we need to do now just in terms of configuring our machine, making sure certain things are as they should be. But the main thing we need to do is we need to install the what are called the guest tools, which are basically drivers for our operating system. So to do that, you click up here on devices and select this option here, insert guest edition CD images. Okay. Then you have to navigate here. See if we can find that installation media. So we should be able to see it here on the left. So I've had to go into File Explorer, and under this PC, you can see the option down here. So I just clicked on that. Okay, and then there should be an option in here then to basically run an install file. Okay, so we just need to see which file is best for us to run. So in our case, we're looking for the Windows 64-bit application file, which is this one here. So I'm just going to double click on that. Okay, you can see I get this pop up here. Do I want to allow this app to run? Yes, I do. And again, we need to do this just to ensure that the correct drivers are installed for our operating system to run smoothly on VirtualBox. So here we have the installation wizard. So we click next on the first screen. We can choose a folder where we want the tools to be installed. So we'll just leave it at the defaults. Click next. And again, it's asking us what components do we want to install here. So we pretty much want all the components. You can see the first two are checked by default, and the last one is also checked. So we can leave the defaults here and just click install. And one of the main issues that this install will clear up for us is the fact that our screen here, as you can see, it's not full screen. You can see all this gray area around here. So the install of these tools and the drivers will allow us to go in full screen once the installation is complete. Okay, so looks like the install is complete. It's asking us now, do we want to reboot our machine? Which we do. So I'll just click finish. So the VM will reboot. When it comes up, first thing we should notice is that it will go into full screen. So again, I'm just going to pause the recording while the machine is booting up. Okay, so my machine has booted up here. You can see it's gone full screen. So when I click to maximize the screen here, you can see I get the screen going all the way out to the sides with no gray as we've seen before. Now it did take a couple of minutes once the machine booted up for this to actually take effect, but if you just give it a minute or two, it should be fine. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, or the next thing I like to do anyway, is to just configure the machine so that we can copy and paste to and from the virtual machine from our local machine. So for example, my local machine here, which you can see in the background, if I have a file here that I want to copy into my VirtualBox VM, then I'll be able to drag that file into the VM from my local machine. Also, if I wanted to copy a file from my VirtualBox VM to my local machine, I want to be able to do that. So I want to be able to just drag and drop or copy from my virtual machine to my local machine. So there are a couple of options we need to configure here. So in our settings, I'll just start this again. So if we go to machine settings, and then in general, under advanced, we have these options here. So shared clipboard. So again, this is if I want to say copy some text to the clipboard on my local machine and then paste it into my VirtualBox VM, I need to have this option enabled. So there are 3 options here, well 4 if you include disabled. So the option that we want is bidirectional. So that means we can copy in both directions from the local machine to the VM and from the VM to the local machine. So that's with our clipboard, and then we want also to enable the bidirectional drag and drop option. So once I have both those options selected, just click OK, and that's it. We should be good to go. So I'm just going to start up Microsoft Edge here on my virtual machine just to make sure all is as it should be. And again, I'll just maximize the screen here. So my machine is a bit slow. I haven't spec'd it too well, but you can change the spec or the configuration of your machine if you feel you need to. Again, that's under machine and settings. So you can see the options in here. You can increase your memory if you need to, or you can also increase your CPU configuration if you need to do that. The machine will need to be powered down to do that. You can see it's grayed out here at the moment. These options are grayed out. Okay, you can see Microsoft Edge is starting up for me here. But if I look here on my local machine under my VirtualBox admin panel, you can see my machine here. And again, if you want to change settings in here, if you want to change the settings of your machine, you can do it from here. You just come in here and there's the settings option here. So once you have your machine selected on the left, you can click settings and it'll bring you into the same settings configuration screen that I just showed you. It's just another way of getting to the settings. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize that again, and you can see Microsoft Edge is up and running. Yeah, and I have internet access. So it looks like all is good. Okay, so if you found this video useful or helpful, it'd be great if you could hit the like button. That's it. Thanks for watching.